Artificial Intelligence, Optimizing the Power Grid. I'm Tonya Hall, and joining me is Chad Steelberg, co founder, chairman, and CEO of Veritone. Welcome back, Chad.
Thanks, Tonya. Happy to be here.
What does Veritone do, especially in the area of electric power generation?
Well, Veritone was started in 2014 with a vision of building the first operating system for artificial intelligence. We've now completed that. We're on version 3.1 and are a dominant player in bringing artificial intelligence to the media entertainment, public safety and justice, and several other industries. As we announced just recently this week, we've been working for the past 2.5 years of building an artificial intelligence infrastructure for our beleaguered and legacy-based power grids. And we're now starting to roll that out to bring not only decarbonization, but also accelerate the adoption of green energy solutions at a much broader and accelerated scale.
What opportunities are there for AI to be applied in the energy industry?
You know, artificial intelligence can be applied to any industry, but with energy, it took a really interesting solution for us. We acquired a company about 2.5 years, and the principal reason for that was we brought on our chief data scientist, who's been with us since then, Dr. Wolf Kahn. He's a double PhD from MIT, professor at Stanford University, as well as the University of Washington. And his research over the years has been focused on optimizing and controlling large distributed systems like a power grid. And what we've been able to do is really 4 key things. First and foremost is optimizing energy flow by being able to predict supply and demand on an energy grid in real time. Second, not only are we using that real-time optimization and forecasting to then predict where supply and demand meet, but also to then be able to distribute and control the grid to be able to optimize how energy is actually flowing through that network. This is absolutely revolutionizing how grids will operate in the future by reducing what they call spinning reserves and optimizing through solar smoothing the utilization of battery technologies.
How can AI accelerate the transition to renewable energy? And how has the green energy boom actually created new problems for the industry?
You know, the legacy energy grids worked very similar to kind of like a telephone system in the 1950s. You know, essentially I tried to call you and some operator would connect our 2 lines so we could have a conversation. They had very simplistic architectures, a power generation source or 2, coal-fired plant, maybe moving to nuclear, et cetera. And energy would flow downhill on an energy gradient towards the demand side. What's changed is as renewables have entered the grid, suddenly now you have bidirectional energy flow, A, and B, the energy production is no longer in the control per se of the power company. For, you know, God and the wind and sun and other types of renewables are unpredictable for most. And so what we've been able to do is to very accurately predict how energy production on those renewables flows. But when you don't have that level of prediction, what ends up happening is you have spikes in the energy that flows through the network in uncontrolled ways, A, damaging core infrastructure as a part of the grid. In fact, since in the last decade, just US power companies alone have had over $8 billion of infrastructure destroyed as a result of that renewable green source. I like to think of it as kind of the black underbelly of the green energy movement we've all been pushing for. And in fact, some of our core customers, just to touch on that point finally, have billions of dollars of funds set aside to continue to deploy green energy solutions like batteries and other types like wind turbines. And they've been holding off on those deployments because of the infrastructure damage that's being caused. So we're very excited to see how AI, and specifically aiWARE, can start to solve those systemic problems and get us back on track on our renewable objectives.
Switching gears a little, how can AI be used to protect the grid against cyber attack?
You know, when you think about what the internet did for telecommunications, you went from a circuit-based infrastructure where if a part of that infrastructure was damaged, entire cities and regions could be completely cut off from communication. The United States felt that that was a national security threat and deployed technology developed at a DARPA that became the internet, designed to move communication from being point-to-point connection based, but rather now packet based that could be routed. And as soon as you move to a routed based infrastructure, now you've brought intelligence into how information flows. And so if parts of the internet are damaged, as you and I both know, you still can route information around those damaged infrastructure and get communication out without any real degradation in service. When you think about energy, the historical grid operates very much like a circuit-based network. But when you start overlaying intelligent switches that can be controlled on a sub-second basis in real time, as parts of that infrastructure are damaged, the intelligence of that network can start to route energy around damaged infrastructure to continue to optimize power flow to key infrastructure.
How can AI help prevent rolling blackouts like the ones California suffers from spreading nationwide?
Yeah, you're lucky living down in Texas now. I still live in California and get to enjoy the green energy we produce, but also the consequences of that, which happen to be rolling blackouts and other issues. You know, what's interesting is you are able to start to predict the supply side of your power chain in a far more accurate way than just simply saying, guess what, there's the sun shining in the afternoon and it's not in the evenings. But you start thinking about cloud cover and wind generation on a 1 minute, 15 minutes hourly basis with high degrees of accuracy by using thermal imaging cameras and other input sources. You suddenly have the ability to direct power and start to mix power from both your coal-fired plants and others in an optimal way to hopefully get ahead of some of the issues. What's causing these power outages in California really comes down to the lack of predictability around the generation side of power.
Chad Steelberg, co-founder, chairman, and CEO of Veritone. If somebody wants to find out more about your work, Chad, maybe they want to connect with you personally, how can they do that?
Well, as we mentioned, I'm definitely not on TikTok, but you can find me on LinkedIn under Chad Steelberg, and as well, drop me a line anytime. My email is chad@veritone.com.
That's much to my dismay, Chad. I will tell you that right now. Thanks again for joining us.
Hey, thanks, Tonya. Cheers.
Absolutely. And find more of my interviews right here or at tonyahall.net. Thanks for watching.